Good morning, guys. Miss Gerson should be here momentarily. I am so glad that we're able to meet with her. I felt that she was very dismissive when I last met with her about my concerns, and she seems to not believe that Danny requires any additional support.
I know, but I'm hopeful that this time around she's more open and willing.
In my experience in similar scenarios, it's important that we acknowledge and empathize with their apprehensions in order to carefully approach the idea of an evaluation.
Good morning, Miss Gerson. I am so glad that we could meet today regarding Danny. I am Mrs. Maratea, Danny's general education teacher. We also have our special education teacher, Mr. Diorio, and our school counselor, Mrs. Bowen.
Good morning, Mrs. Gerson. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting.
Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to address that we're all meeting today because we all have the same common goals, and we want Danny to have all the tools that he needs to successfully make progress inside and outside of school. So since our general education teacher spends most of the time with Danny, we'll have her speak first.
Over the past few weeks, I've noticed some changes with Danny in the classroom. He has difficulty staying in his chair and has actually fallen out a few times. I've also had trouble during my morning meetings because he walks away or hits other students. I've noticed it does help that these occur less when fewer students are in attendance or that he's given ample space around him. He also needs multiple reminders throughout the day as to not put various objects in his mouth. He's chewed on his pencils, and I have a limited supply to restock. These issues do seem to be sensory seeking, and I think that he'd benefit from a formal evaluation to see if he could be offered any additional support.
Good morning, everybody. So like I've said in the past, this is something that I have to think about because I know somebody with an IEP and it stayed with them for life all through school. And I don't want Danny to have that stigma. At his age, I feel like it's normal. I know a lot of kindergartners who fall out of their seats and put things in their mouth and push. I know when he's falling, he's playing pretend.
Thank you for sharing your concerns, Mrs. Gerson. We acknowledge them, we understand them, and we understand that there can be a lot to take in at this time, and we empathize with that difficulty. And to assuage any concerns you may have, we've brought along a fact sheet that answers frequently asked questions. Also, we've included some metrics that can serve to dispel any concerns or misconceptions you have regarding students who have an IEP in place. For example, in 2020, the National Center for Education Statistics learned that over 2/3 of students with an IEP in place spend greater than or equal to 80% of their instructional time in general education classrooms. Not only this, the National Center for Learning Disabilities states that about 90% of students with IEPs are able to meet the same challenging standards prescribed to every student. There are myths and misconceptions regarding evaluations and having a plan in place. However, it's our job to put parents at ease by dispelling these worries. In addition to the statistics, we've provided an informational sheet published by Nemours Children's Health. Here are the materials. I am of the mind that with the skill of our faculty, compounded by effective home and school communication and cooperation, we can create a learning environment in which Danny can learn and grow to the best of his ability. However, the first step to doing so comes through evaluation.
I just feel like it's so soon. This is Danny's first time at school around kids his age. I really believe he will catch on to the routine and just improve his classroom functioning before first grade. Again, an evaluation in services seems like extreme and something I still have to think about.
Okay, and we all completely understand your view. However, I just want to be clear that any modifications will be more difficult to implement the longer we wait.
So what would these modifications look like? Will he be doing different work than others? Will he have a person in the classroom helping him? Isn't that embarrassing?
I actually have a few students that benefit from various modifications. Danny's familiar with some of these alternative seating arrangements and sensory toys from seeing other children use them.
Also, modifications come in many forms. In addition to your more traditional services such as specialists for reading, counselors, and things such as extra time for testing, contemporary approaches that serve to mitigate sensory overstimulation can be used to make the classroom and by extension lessons more accessible for Danny. These include things such as chair augments that will allow for him to move while he's in place, sensory toys, and other tools for the promotion of fine motor movements. Things like this are becoming increasingly common in the general education classrooms across the country, and also the children seem to enjoy using them.
Okay, so I mean, it's nice to know that these services, I guess, are common now. And some of the modifications will definitely be appealing for Danny. So I suppose I can take some more information on these evaluations and programs, but I would still like some more time before I commit.
Thank you so much for meeting with us, Ms. Gerson. We really appreciate your openness to learn more about these programs. Mrs. Bowen will be reaching out to you with more information, and I'd like to schedule another meeting with you next week to discuss your thoughts.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm glad that this time around she was more receptive to our concerns, and it honestly seems like with a little more guidance and reassurance that we could possibly get Danny the help that he needs.
I'm very happy with how this meeting went. It was much better than the meeting I had with her last time.
All right, let's tentatively schedule a follow-up for next week. Would that work for everyone?
Yeah, that works. I'll send out a follow-up email before this evening to schedule that.
That works for me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
All right.